as far as something that would help business people to think about when it comes to
Sure. And there's so many things. Like when you look at working out and taking and adopting a healthy lifestyle, there's just no argument against it, right? There just is not. It enhances everything, right? The better physical condition that you're in, to a certain extent, because then that's where people start getting, I call it the athletic freak or the fitness freak, right? It's a kind of an unprecedented time along those lines because people didn't used to work out year round. Right. So now we're seeing people that are, especially the CEO go-getter sales types, they do a lot of it to basically, it's a, how do you want to say, to kind of supplement to help them with other things. Right. So then it's like they end up doing the same things over and over and over again. Right. So then they end up having injuries or, what we see, and I'll kind of go back to some of the basics. So there's some pretty cool research. I want to say that was out of the University of Pittsburgh that shows that, basically if you're trying to adhere to a diet, and kind of vice versa with this, you need to exercise and do your diet at the same time because you get better results, right? And when the question becomes why, but what it really comes down to is goal setting. So depending on how formal or informal you're being, goals, direct, it's a whole law of attraction, right? It directs the focus of your attention in the right places. So whenever you're, whatever it is, 3 days a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, if you're setting the time and saying, okay, whether you're going to a workout class or you're doing a workout in your garage or whatever, at 1 o'clock on these days, I'm going to show up for this workout program, and you keep doing that, it strengthens your self-efficacy. Right? That's the first thing, because I've already set this goal and I've achieved it. So you keep doing that. And we know like flow states and whatnot. And my favorite quote from the book Flow is, once I've tasted this joy, I will redouble my efforts just to taste it again. Right. And he's talking about flow. So as you keep doing that, the process starts to strengthen itself. But, it's not just, a habit. It's also this, positive benefit that you're also getting from strengthening your body and improving your physical capability, right? And there's, again, more research on that. The more physically capable you are, the more confident you are, right? And there's so many things, especially for females. Actually, that's what I just got done on my little webinar, talking about every characteristic across the board, especially for females compared to males, improves their, likelihood to not marry an abusive spouse, or to basically complete high school or college, or to basically avoid abusing drugs and alcohol. If they're somebody that engages in sports or fitness 5 to 6 days a week, you see it in huge improvement along those lines, right? But from, basically this whole idea of building your confidence, right, and committing to this exercise program or nutrition program or whatever it is, you also have these physiological benefits. The number one being what's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So if you see, one of the big issues, I think, and this is even when I was coming through early on, a lot of people are looking for, what are called nootropics or nootropics. You guys are familiar with that term? Like Adderall would be an example, right? Which is basically methamphetamine, which is something that, are a lot of our, high achiever people are taking, exogenous drugs to do things to enhance their mindset or whatever, their cognitive capability, right? But they're not sleeping, they're not eating healthy, right? They're not, getting their exercise, and they're super stressed all of the time. And we have this hormone in our and neurotransmitter in our brains that's also partially associated with Alzheimer's disease as well. This brain-derived neurotrophic factor is what helps to create new neurological connections in the body and in the brain, especially when we engage in some type of intense, focused experience like we see in flow. Right. And so, flow is that, again, that state of this time when, or this period when things slow down and, we're engaged in this activity just for the sake of the activity of itself, that we're so focused on it in this moment because the challenge is basically being placed equal to our capabilities. It puts us into this certain mindset, and then it triggers these hormonal responses and these neurotransmitter type of responses in the body that helps us to become more resilient and more effective at these type of things that we're trying to engage in later. So the body is engaged in this adaptation process to strengthen us, not only psychologically, but also physiologically as well. It works really well. And coming back to the Adderall situation, right? It's like, well, first we need to get our sleep together, right? Our sleep is the most important thing. There's a new term called insufficient sleep syndrome, where basically you're ending up in this chronic sleep deprived situation. And Matt Walker has a book called Why We Sleep. And then there's some other books on the great courses about sleeping. And then ultimately your nutrition, right? You're in which you can't really think about your nutrition and your exercise without putting sleep first, because your body is not going to respond to your nutrition and exercise correctly. And eventually you're going to have a breakdown, right? So a lot of people, especially high achievers, they forget about their sleep. And I did this at one time myself, where I basically burnt myself out because in my mind, I'm going, okay, I'm stressed out, so I need to exercise. Right. So I kept exercising despite the fact that I was super stressed. And it was like the compounding of the two stressors coming together actually caused my body to shut down even more. And I ended up having to back off. And one of the reasons why I say that, and it was a big issue to me, because before that moment, I would have told you that I didn't even believe in stress. Right. It was like, stress doesn't exist. That's for weak people. Right. And I, being a college wrestler, right, get that mentality. And I still, had that mentality in my, mid to late 20s. But, I decided to start a business and try to do something that had kind of never been done in physical therapy before. And I really didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I knew that my mission and my purpose was, worth, becoming a martyr if I had to, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it.
Hold up.